Welcome to the Human Nature Channel. I'm your host, mtamsula, also known as Daddy Baby on Twitter. And what am I doing here? Well, what I'm doing here today is talking about the phrase conspiracy theory, which, if you listen to corporate-controlled mainstream news, you get to hear it tossed around quite a bit. Actually, it's an old phrase. I heard it in the early 70s, and I've even seen examples of it in print publications from the late 19th century. So, as a phrase, it's been around a while. Perhaps you've heard the famous story about the CIA memo that noted the formation of a vocal minority of skeptics who are looking at the Warren Commission's conclusions at the end of the investigation into the assassination of President John F. Kennedy, and this vocal minority was saying, hey, the story doesn't make any sense. Well, apparently somebody at the CIA said, this will never do. And so the memo recommends taking the phrase conspiracy theory and seeding it to their contacts in the media. And if anybody ever feels like writing an article or doing a story about this group that is questioning the conclusions of the Warren Commission, well, just say they're peddling conspiracy theories. They're conspiracy theorists, which becomes synonymous with the word kook. At that point, the phrase becomes a meaningless smear. It is only designed to intimidate, to shut down conversations about the Kennedy assassination, to shut down questioning. That's all. But if you're interested in semantics, which is the study of meaning, and apply some of the basic principles to what Brother Spook is doing, in this instance, he's destroying meaning. What a scummy thing to do. Alright, let's say I'm outside and I'm walking down the street and I'm minding my own business and I hear somebody say, hey, conspiracy theorist. I'm like, what? Stop what you're doing for 1 second, motherfucker, and listen. I'm the English teacher from hell, and you're about to get schooled. And it's for your own good. Let's take the phrase conspiracy theory and break it in two, shall we? All right. So you got the word conspiracy. What's it mean? Two people plotting a crime in private? Exactly. Now let's take the word theory. Define it. What does it mean? A hypothesis that needs to be tested? Very good. Now put the two together. What do you have? Two people or more in private plotting a crime is a hypothesis that needs to be tested. So when you call me a conspiracy theorist, is that sort of what you mean? Now, am I supposed to test this hypothesis, or am I not supposed to test this hypothesis? But I do. And can you see the logic problem? I mean, the Justice Department of the United States government indicts people for conspiracy all the time. You're not implying that conspiracies don't occur, are you? All right. This is what I love about S.I. Hayakawa and semantics, which is the study of meaning. You can stop a bullshitter right in his tracks. You can catch people trying to destroy meaning. Okay, over the last 80 years, there have been mysterious deaths, assassinations, bombings, and mass shootings which have had conspiracy theories spring from them. I got a list. Oh man. The granddaddy of them all. General George S. Patton's mysterious car accident in 1945. A soldier was quoted as saying, "The bastards got him." JFK, 1963. Malcolm X, 1965. Stay away from that if you want to keep breathing. Martin Luther King, Robert F. Kennedy, 1968. Ronald Reagan, the attempt on his life, 1981. The Oklahoma City bombing, 1995. 9/11, which I consider a bombing. That's just me. The Route 91 Harvest Festival massacre in Las Vegas, 2017. And I'll even include the Pittsburgh synagogue shooting in 2018 because I got a line on some weird stuff. So, each one of these events inspired a conspiracy theory in a group of people who spend time. What do they all have in common? The official story doesn't make any sense. And when you think about it, there has to be a structure to what we call conspiracy theory. It has to have a geometry, which goes like this. You've got the official story over here. It was just Lee Harvey Oswald and him all by himself. And then you have this vocal minority over here saying, the story doesn't make any sense. The official story doesn't make any sense. That's true of all of them. You have the vocal minority with all of these. That links them, and the other thing that links them is that every conspiracy theory is a circumstantial case with little to no evidence. The circumstances in a circumstantial case are stories destined for the witness stand. Okay? After the election, I started listening to Mayor Rudolph Giuliani on his YouTube channel, which is called Rudy's Common Sense, and I was getting into what he had to say. I think it was his video number 89, where he talks about the importance of the circumstantial case. And I'm like, yeah. He invokes the legacy of the great trial attorney Louis Nizer, who said that, not always, but maybe 9 times out of 10, the circumstantial case will pay off for you big time in cross-examination, right? I mean, let's say you have this criminal trial and you have numerous witnesses and they have all part of the big story, but they have their chunk of the story, right? Their point A, B, C, and D. So you get the witness up on the stand and you're working them through. You're talking them through the story. You're going from point A to point B. Okay, that's nice. And from point B to point C. But then you get to point C and you're being contradicted, or the witness being contradicted by other witnesses, contradicting what's being said in the police report. Maybe it's a case of faulty memory. Maybe you've nabbed yourself a perjurer. But in every one of those instances, it comes down to this. Hey, at point C, the story doesn't make any sense. So, why is the idea of conspiracy theory such a bad one? When all it is the circumstantial case. It is a tool that is used by attorneys. It has a legitimate place in the courtroom. You begin to realize that you could switch it out with synonyms, right? Conspiracy theory, you could call it secret history, which was going back to like the 70s, and you had books like Robert Anton Wilson's The Illuminati Trilogy, which was this underground bestseller. And it was just all about JFK assassination and all kind of other conspiracies. But back then it was considered secret history, right? The history they're keeping from you. the history they don't want you to hear. And I mean, obviously there's stuff being kept from us. There's stuff that's secret. You know, so secret history is not really saying much. Oh. Who's in the news recently? Anybody catch this? Daniel Ellsberg, the guy who leaked the Pentagon Papers to the New York Times during the Nixon administration. And there was like a Supreme Court case that Nixon lost. He was trying to block the publication of these papers. He got rebuked. And when the news media was presenting these papers to you, what did they call it? The secret history of the Vietnam War. So, okay, I guess secret histories do happen occasionally. And it's okay to use that synonym then, but not use this synonym now. Hey, Alex, what's a good synonym for synonym? Shut up. And I have my favorite synonym for conspiracy theory: the insufficiently investigated crime. When I was much younger, around the age of 11, I started reading books on the JFK assassination, and since then I've spent a lot of time looking into what I call the insufficiently investigated crime. Do you remember Barry Scheck, one of the co-counsels in the O.J. Simpson trial? Scheck co-founded the Innocence Project in 1992, and as Wikipedia says, it was dedicated to the utilization of DNA evidence as a means to exculpate individuals of crimes for which they were wrongfully convicted. So far, the Innocence Project has had 362 wrongful convictions overturned. How does that fit into the notion of the insufficiently investigated crime? Isn't it obvious? If a person was sent to prison or death row for a crime they didn't commit, then the real perpetrator got away with it. And that happened at least 362 times that I'm aware of. Insufficiently investigated crimes do happen, probably more often than we think. And if you call me a conspiracy theorist, I'll turn my back on you. Have a good one.
I want my money.